Good evening. You're listening to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Xtreme Studios in the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I have the young 20-something Professor Pixel, also from the Orlando area. As usual, we're going to be covering our continuing look at Forever Night, Season 1, a Canadian late-night detective TV show about a vampire who wants to become human to repay society for his sins. It's a very progressive take on a vampire who really doesn't like to kill or maim anybody. He likes to talk and just sweet talk himself out of situations. I guess it's kind of bizarre, but it's one of those 90s late night TV shows that Pixel, I just think it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of camp, super low budget. Right now we're about halfway through season 1, just a little bit past that on episode 12. We have Kolchak's boss, Stone Tree, basically, as I like to think of, just a bad acting version. It's just, he's got a buddy that's in some trouble and is going to have to rely on, we call him Shanky, but I think it's Stanky. I don't really know. Just like we call it LaCroix, but it's really something else. This show seems to wobble with some of the pronunciation and names. I don't know. I don't care. But this episode, I'm going to be honest, while it's interesting to try to draw Stone Tree in because we have seen him in some episodes be somewhat entertaining or different sides to him, I just feel bringing in somebody he knows and having issues and all that just kind of falls flat here, despite some of the things they have in there, even though I think the banter between Shanky and Nick Knight is actually pretty good in this one. What's your initial take?
I'm going to disagree slightly. I think that the story behind Stone Tree and his friend and his wife is it's a very interesting angle with how he's treating it, because he's almost willing to let it just get swept under the rug. But then Nick has to keep pursuing it.
He's like a dog with a bone. He just can't let go.
Yeah. Because I mean, just to give like a brief rundown of how it starts. There's this woman. She meets this guy in the club. She appears to know him, takes him back to a hotel, and as they're getting their sweet loving on, the guy wants to choke a little bit, and she doesn't like that. She seems terrified, so she runs away, and then suddenly, bang! Someone shoots him. I say someone. By the time that the police get there, the story is already set up. She had the gun. She shot the man because she was terrified. She is the wife of not the police captain, but the man does have some sort of position, some station in life. And originally they go ahead and question it, and Stone Tree just tells Nick, all right, that's the story. I've known these people my entire life, pretty much. So it's done. Thank you. Bye.
What's interesting about the setup to me, because it's one of those episodes where I go, early on we talked about how we thought this might be a vampire, the B story that we would see as something affecting it in here. I don't know how strong we want to say it is, but the interesting thing about the setup is the fact that the inspector that's the friend of Stone Tree, it's his wife, and we don't actually see the killing. We have seen some before, so we know this is kind of hinted at, because this is, a sexual thing that she's doing. She's doing it basically with her side piece, and so we see this happening. And I appreciate a late night TV giving you what would I call not a mainstream lovemaking moment, where even though we don't see them hardcore in the throes of passion, even though it's late night TV, it's strongly suggested. And this is actually one of the first times that I recall on mainstream TV, even cable TV, where they started getting into hardcore, like S&M kind of bondage stuff here. And this is obviously neither one of those. It's really more of, hey, choke the shit out of me. Of course, the problem is they didn't have a safe word, allegedly, and I'm joking with that, but that's what this one wants, because it supposedly enhances the orgasmic effect that you have when you go to climax. And of course, we start to see this a little bit later on the mainstream stuff, like with those gray movies, 50 Shades of Grey and all that, the different types of fantasies women have, the 3 or 4 main ones that are out there, and how being dominated and looked at like this is another one. There's a recent movie from last year that deals with this kind of interestingly, about a serial killer and, this guy choking a chick out, have a problem. It's it's kind of interesting that this show over 30 years ago kind of put this in here too. So it's obvious when Stone Tree overreacts, just the way the actor himself, he's better when he's just kind of like in the background saying one or two things and that's it. But the thing about it too that I thought could have been interesting with Stone Tree, because we've seen him actually like Shanky a lot, and Nick, and like them as a couple, is that he's totally like, you don't know what you're talking about, bro. She's a crack shot. This dude's a great guy. I don't really have time. It's like anytime he's gone off the deep end like that, it's like, no, you're going to be wrong. And I don't think that does a good job of setting Stone Tree up to sound like he's the captain. Does that make sense? It's just kind of like whatever. But the thing is the videotape that they had kind of at the beginning is a porno tape. So where does Nick end up? He ends up at the Yale adult video shop and leaning on the guy kind of heavy about the porn stuff. So the guy's like, hey, look, I don't want to tell you because and he's like, well, I can have everybody down here and take a look at it. And he's like, well, it was Mrs. Fiore who rented it. So you're like, oh, okay, the plot thickens. Nick smells a rat because he knows a rat when he smells one. And damn it, this woman's the rat. What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I remember him going down. The guy running the porno shop is just so skeevy.
He did good. He did good.
I did see some note that people said that like he hypnotized him into saying it, but I didn't see that. I think he just pressed on him and he went ahead and broke. So the wife, Lynn Fiore, that's the wife that shot the guy, supposedly. She's married to Tony, and Tony is like Stone Tree's main friends. I think they were old partners too at a point.
Something like that. Investigating. They came up together, I think.
Yes. So you go ahead and you get to see Stone Tree talk to them, and Tony like looks at the situation. Oh well, I'm thinking I'll take her away for a little while. I think that'll be good. And there's not much of it. Again, Stone Tree doesn't think much of a case is happening.
He doesn't want to know, which is the sad part.
He doesn't want to know. No. So hopefully he does get to take her away. That's what she's saying. That'll be best for him. So after he leaves though, Nick goes over there. He like flies over there and he like stealthily leans in the window and like listens to their conversation. As soon as they're alone, they become a totally different couple.
This was interesting. I did like this part of the episode. Unfortunately, these weren't main characters as far as like, semi-regulars, anything like that. So there's nowhere where they could have worked on something like it. But I like the show trying to tackle some of these things. They're unfortunate they just get into it a little bit. I thought, damn it, this would have been cool if they kept this up.
Yes. But eventually, Nick is able to get just enough to go ahead and prove that she knew the guy. Because it's actually an apartment building, not a hotel. In this apartment, they are frequenting. The guy lives there, and she is always there. And
there's got a lot of hunky man meat coming in and servicing her very strong, kinky demands and all that. And the husband's basically like, okay, so you want to say he's a cuck, but they don't actually use that word. But it's a little bit different because she's the one that's like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm good enough for you and all that too. And I'm like, this is interesting. It's atypical conversation that you would get, and being kind of high level, they don't want this to get out. And I couldn't really tell at this point if Stone Tree knew this was something there in the background. I guess in today's, HBO real time, all these things are out there and have been tackled. But again, this point 30 plus years ago, this was somewhat interesting. But the thing of it is too, even though when Stone Tree's kind of like, oh yeah, she's coming to make a statement, and she's kind of like, saying, well, I had to shoot him in self-defense. Yes, I did know the guy. She's trying not to say too much more than that. And then, you almost see Nick basically glean because he's like, hey, it's impossible because, the shots of the ballistics doesn't match up. The plot thickens to Stone Tree, as it were.
Yep. And then, but Stone Tree does get a report filed, and he has to go ahead and follow it through after. He reads it through, and they go ahead and question her more. They get her to reveal, like I said, that you knew him. And Stone Tree eventually has to go speak to him himself. He has to go see what Tony has to say. And I forget the exact piece that goes ahead and gives him the information, but he tells him, I know you killed Charlie Gibbons. Mm-hmm. And Tony loses it all, kidnaps Stone Tree. And that all while Nick is pressing the wife just a little further, and she admits, it's all my fault. No, I didn't shoot him. But no, it's all my fault because I was the one who was with him. I was the one who brought him in our lives. Pardon me. And eventually, Nick, of course, is able to just zoom over as they're all looking for Stone Tree. He's missing. They know that he's in trouble now. Goes ahead, flies over, and is able to get him. I'm pretty sure. Trying to remember if Fiore survived. Yeah, he did. And Stone Tree has to pretty much admit that he was wrong. He can't believe it. We do get a picnic after, which is nice. A nice outing because it's almost sunset, so Nick is able to come out. And they talk about the trial a little bit. And then the interesting thing, I guess, is that Nick and Natalie embrace for a moment, and she gives him a quick kiss. It's like a second. It'd be
it's like brother sister. But this is where we've talked about where some of the episodes show them being like a couple of others where it seems like it's not consistent.
Yeah, no, honestly, if they had gotten together in the last one, it would make sense, but they did not. Meanwhile, the flashback is Nick and a young woman getting painted. And the painter pretty much tells him that, oh, well, this young thing is lovely, isn't she? And she puts up a strenuous fight, but just a little bit of effort and she'll give in to you. Which that's not a great thing. Nick learns that she thinks of herself as a whore because she was raped by a nobleman, not the painter. See, I don't know why at the time, but I thought the painter and the nobleman were the same person, so I was very confused when Nick implies that he kills her I don't know what to say, assaulter. And then the painter came in, and I was like, what? Because they both are these big, burly men with big beards. I said burly, but they're actually kind of heavy. And then, but it appears that she kills herself because it's too much for her to bear with. Drinks a poison called Lady Killer. It's popular with the ladies because it's the cheapest. And Nick is heartbroken, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just, this could have been, I don't know if it was the editing it, because I like you know, the B story obviously always emulates what's going on in the future, which is nothing wrong with that. But even then you knew that was going to kind of twist a little bit. Stone Tree getting kidnapped after acting like such a bitch, you know, being blindly loyal just makes him look like a rube to me. It's just, this episode, like I say, the elements are interesting on paper, and I'm reading it going, yeah, I like these ideas. I like what I'm putting down here in my notes, but then the execution up to me, it seemed like it fell a little flat. I wasn't really convinced by any of it. There's just something about it. I don't know if it's just filling in a few scenes, having a scene at night where you could hardly see when it's supposed to be, even though it's Canada, so I know probably the sun's down at, say, 4 o'clock or whatever it might be up there in Toronto or whatever beach they're at. It's like, really? It's just, I don't know. And the whole thing with Natalie, just, are you guys a couple or not, or what? Am I getting the occasional episode that's just, they forgot to put the light filter on when they put on the DVD? I don't know. It's this was sloppy to me. You had something here, but it's like cooking cold meat. no matter how good a quality meat is, because it's cold and you're rushing through, it's never really going to be that good of a dish. It's a little disappointing to me. It's forgettable, and I'm looking forward to moving on to the next one. Any other final thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm ready to move on to the next one too. But that's it.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Forever Night, Season 1, Episode 12. Yeah, check it out on an Internet Archive. I believe there's some episodes. I think they're showing on Tubi here in the United States currently at the time of this recording. That fluctuates. If you can find a DVD quality, and there's actually free episodes on YouTube as well that you can find for it too, that may be somewhat edited because the Canadian versions are a different length than American. They're slightly longer, and there's an extra minute or two if they're European, which has some of the romance angle stuff with Natalie that they've heavily edited. I think what you and I are seeing here is a mix. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Good night now.
This was not a Dan Curtis production.